Before we start, I want to read something to you. And cause that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand, or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save that he had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Now, I'm not particularly religious. However, I chose this passage from Revelations to exercise a point of growing popularity in technology for the necessity to simplify, condense, and track our emails, the stock market, basically any statistic you could think to look up. Now, what about tracking us? If you have a pet, they may be one of the 6 million in the United States that are microchipped in case they're lost or stolen. It's easier to find them. But what would you think if the government implemented a program that required the populace to be microchipped in order that the information could be simplified, condensed into a database, and track the entire population, all at the click of a button? Today, we're going to be talking about microchipping. The last FDA-approved human implantable radio frequency identification microchip, also known as the RFID, was approved in the early part of the last decade, and it's called Verichip. Now, the Verichip is a small microchip that's about twice the length of a dime, and it's apparently harmless, usually implanted somewhere between the shoulder and the elbow on your right arm. The Verichip can be activated by scanning it at a proper frequency. Now, once it's scanned by this frequency, what it does, it encodes a unique 16-digit number to the particular individual in which it is implanted. And among other things, that number is linked to a database that holds the individual's medical records, identification information, etc. Verichip is marketed by the Verichip Corporation, which is a subsidiary of the Applied Digital Sciences. Now, ADS produces global tracking systems and RFID devices for consumer, commercial, and government uses. The funny thing about ADS is that they hold what they call a small minority in the Verichip Corporation, when in actuality, they hold 49% of the company's ownership. Now, I have another article to read for you, just a small excerpt from March 3rd in 2002. This is out of Time magazine, and it's called Meet the Chipsons. Applied Digital Solutions, which has trademarked the phrase, "get chipped," has big plans for its little device. In the next few years, it wants to add sensors that will read your vital signs, pulse, temperature, blood sugar, and so on, and a satellite receiver that can track where you are. The company makes a paper-like gadget called Digital Angel that does both these things, and its engineers are doing their darndest to cram Digital Angel's functions into a small package small enough to implant. Once they do, Verichip will be very powerful indeed. Security is part of the Verichip business plan. The company has already signed a deal with the California Department of Corrections to track the movement of parolees using Digital Angel. Dr. Richard Sealing, the company's medical applications director, believes that Verichip could function as a theft-proof, counterfeit-proof ID, like having a driver's license embedded under your skin. He feels also that airlines and governments should require airline pilots to get chipped to ensure terrorists can no longer infiltrate the cockpit of a particular airplane. There are already millions of people across the entire planet that have a Verichip implant. And what I want to do is give you some facts about the Verichip and the Verichip Corporation that I think are important for you to know. As of November 10th, 2009, just a few months ago, Verichip Corporation became known as Positive ID. Now, according to their website, Positive ID gives consumers and businesses unique identification tracking tools to ensure their protection. Positive ID is split into two different business factors. The first is Health ID. Now, Health ID uses a glucose tracking RFID device to help detect viruses in the body and also store extensive medical record information. The company was also quoted saying that they hope one day the Health ID sector can be used to try and track bioterrorism. Now, the second sector under positive ID is ID security. They're linked with a website called nationalcreditreport.com and in place to help users apparently stave off identity theft, keep track of their credit score and credit transactions. So let's go back a little ways before the Verichip was actually produced. Verichip Corporation's original funding came from corporate information giant IBM. Now, keep in mind, IBM pulls in about $100 billion in revenue per year, still to this day, and what they did was they gave Verichip a $30 million loan. And they were quoted as to saying this loan was to ensure microchipping was in place for future generations. For their protection, of course. On another funny note about IBM, earlier in the 20th century, they created a system called the Hollerith card punching system. Now, this technology was leased to the Nazis and Hitler's regime, and what it was used for was to track non-compliant persons so that they could be removed from society. Strange, huh? The Verichip is manufactured by a company called Raytheon Microelectronics España. Now, for those of you who don't know, this company usually produces large-scale weapons, like the Tomahawk missile, and is in fact the 5th largest government defense contractor. Now, what an intriguing relationship! A weapons defense manufacturer and a company that makes human microchipping implants? What I didn't mention earlier about Verichip Corporation's new name, Positive ID, is that this was due to a merger with Verichip Corporation and Steel Vault Corporation, which was in the business of security and identity theft. Now we have a merger between human microchipping and identity theft, an intriguing relationship as well. Next is the relationship with Verichip and the Veripay system, which, by the way, is mentioned nowhere on their website, mind you. However, I did find an article pertaining to this very system. 2003 was when it was written on CNN.com. And it says, clubbers who want to join the scene at Baja Beach Club in Barcelona pay 125 euros, about 150 US dollars, for the Verichip, about the size of a grain of rice, to be implanted in their body. Then, when they pass through a scanner, the chip is activated and emits a signal containing the individual's number, which is then transmitted to a secure data storage site. Now, the purpose of this is so that you don't have to bring cash and credit cards with you. And when you scan that Verichip, you can make all your transactions, leave a tab open, pay your bills, anything you'd like, just by having the chip under your skin. Another interesting relationship. Okay, even further is Verichip Corp's newly founded Verigreen Energy Corporation. Now, the purpose of this corporation is to invest in clear and alternative energy. And this is on the heels of the $79 billion stimulus package put into place just last year for clean energy. What another interesting relationship. We have the global warming agenda, the stimulus bill, the cap and trade, and human microchipping coming all together at once. Now, this is just a few examples of relationships that Positive ID has now put into place, securing, I'm sure, different backers and, more purposes to push to the population why we should be microchipped and why it's good for you. Now, if any of this information is slightly frightening to you, as it is to me, somewhere else you can go for more information is wethepeoplewillnotbechipped.com. When you get there, take a look at the Bodily Integrity Act. Now, this is a piece of legislation just put into place, and it's trying to be passed at a federal level. And basically what it would ensure is that it would prohibit the forced implantation of tracking devices into individuals. Now, if nothing I've said thus far makes any concern in your mind, well, more power to you. Maybe one of these days I'll do a video about your information. Do you think it's possible to implant an electrode in someone's brain and then be able to control them somewhat like a remote control car? Well, it is. Join us in a future video when we're going to discuss electrode implanting as a form of mind control. So, most of the population thinks that the Cold War is over, which I guess it is, according to the history books, and that communism is no longer a threat. Well, join us in a future video where we're going to talk about the Obama administration, socialism, and communism in place right now. Thank you for joining me today on our discussion about microchipping. Please leave me any comments or questions that you have. Also, rate my video and don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.